It's time for the Fast Break Basketball Show with your hosts, Wes Cusworth and Beth Davies.
Hello and welcome to the Fast Break Basketball Show. I'm Wes Cusworth, joined by Beth Davies, and whilst there's still great uncertainty as to what's going on in the world, we know at large, there does appear to be a little bit of clarity with regard to the Big V competition, Beth.
Yeah, look, the Big V have made the decision to cancel the final 2 rounds of the season, obviously because the Melbourne Metropolitan lockdown has been extended to September 2nd. So they've chosen to cancel the last 2 rounds, meaning that all divisions and all teams will now move straight into a final series. And what they're going to do with that is host the final series over a weekend. So the top 4 teams from each league will go through to finals. Depending on whether it's youth league or senior, some will play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and some will just be Saturday, Sunday. Unfortunately, 3 of our Geelong teams miss out on finals due to their ladder positioning, but we do have the Corio-based Stingrays Division 1 men who will be going through to finals. So we're really looking forward to seeing them. So finals weekend, hopefully, fingers crossed, all going to plan, will be September 12th to 13th, 11th and 12th, sorry, September 11th and 12th. And they will be taking on the Bellarine Storm in their first matchup on Saturday night.
It's a derby.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah,
a
local derby, yeah. So we really look forward to hopefully hosting that here in Geelong, in regional Victoria. And the winner of that game will, of course, go through to the grand final on Sunday. So fingers crossed that the Corio-based Stingrays can get the win over Bellarine Storm and make it through to the final on the Sunday.
Now, I know we've all been missing out on your Geelong advertiser writing for NBL 1, but it doesn't mean that you haven't been doing your research, and I believe you've got some information there.
Yeah, again, unfortunately, the NBL 1 national finals have been cancelled just due to the uncertainty around restrictions, border closures, who knows what states will be. It was so great this year to have other conferences join the NBL 1 competition. We've had NBL 1 West, NBL 1 Central, NBL 1 North, and of course NBL 1 South, which is what Geelong competes in. But each of those conferences are still going to host their own conference finals, again, when restrictions allow. But unfortunately, the NBL 1 all national finals won't be able to be played, which is a shame because, you know, we remember the ABA national finals days, you know. Geelong won the ABA National Finals back in 2007, and we actually hosted the ABA National Finals here in 2005. So it would have been great to see that sort of competition again with all the states coming together, but understandable under the circumstances.
And I think one of the other really good things with the NBL 1 social media this year is that we've been alerted to what's actually happening in some of those other competitions.
Yeah, and as you say, you can literally watch any game now on the NBL 1 website, so it's amazing to be able to watch games from all over the country, and it really is becoming that second tier competition to the NBL, which is what the goal of it is. And to see some of those NBL players like Shea Illy come and play for us, and George Blagojevic and things like that, to be able to play in these kinds of competition is amazing to be able to see that all live and all online.
Yeah, indeed. And you make mention of the NBL 1. Coming up tonight in our show is one of the absolute superstars of the NBL competition from years past. One of the very, very favourite Super Cats of all time is coming up on the other side of this break. Welcome back to the Fast Break Basketball Show. Coming up is one of the superstars, one of the greatest players of all time in NBL competition, Cal Bruton.
Absolute legend of the game, not just in the NBL but in Australian basketball in general. You know, he played for 4 NBL clubs, but his reach and his impact that he has had on basketball in this country is just immeasurable. Not only has he done so many camps and clinics and brought so many juniors through the ranks, literally nearly every player in Australian basketball that has reached that top level has had some sort of interaction with Cal Bruton, and you can just see the joy that he brings into basketball even now today, in still having those connections and still bringing so much to the game of basketball.
Yes, indeed. And not only as a player but also a coach at the Super Cats. In fact, I would go so far as to suggest that for a period of time he was the brand at Geelong, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we always say he once a Super Cat, always a Super Cat. So we're always going to claim Cal Bruton as our own Cal Bruton.
Indeed. It was an absolute pleasure for Beth and I to catch up with Cal Bruton.
Well, we're thrilled to have the Black Pearl, Cal Bruton, joining us on the Fast Break Basketball Show this week. Cal, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure, Beth. Thank you for having me.
We always talk about, you know, Cal Bruton as being one of the OGs of the Geelong Super Cats. You know, you came out here, you know, really on the cusp of the NBL, as the NBL was really starting to explode on the Australian basketball scene. You know, player coach for the Super Cats, playing for the Super Cats for a number of seasons. Talk us through a little bit about those very early days of, coming to Australia, playing for Brisbane, and then coming to Geelong and playing in the city of Geelong, and all the work that you did in the community to really build up that Supercats brand.
Sure. I suppose the Brisbane one was quite different. I had never met anyone in the country, and I landed on the tarmac in Brisbane in 1979 of February with a wool coat on, and everyone thought I was an Eskimo just arriving. It was hot, and all I wanted to do was have a shower and then go and work out. And they told me to take the train, the ferry, and then the train to the Auckland Dome. And when I followed the instructions and landed on the platform at the Auckland Flower Station, I looked for the dome and I didn't see it. And so I walked down the steps and seen the actual tin shed, which they call the dome. And as I walked in, they said, "Welcome to the Auckland Dome." And I looked, they had a barbecue blowing smoke on from court 2 to court 1. And I thought, "Was this where we're going to play?" And yes, that's it. So it was the early days. Everything was in the tin shed. I played in all the different cities, Sydney, Melbourne, I guess Nunawading and St. Kilda. They had the 2 teams there, Adelaide. They had the West Adelaide Bearcats and Glenelg Tigers. And that was a bit different. And then, of course, I came back and played. Tassie wasn't in the league then, but we didn't have New South Wales. It was just Illawarra Hawks, and in Sydney was the Bruins, Bankstown Bruins, and so going through those teams, it was interesting challenges. I was only one of 2 Black Americans in the whole competition, so I was looking for some brothers to hang out with, and there was none except Herb McEachin here in Canberra. And very challenging year. We started out really slow, but on the back end of the season, we won 8 out of 10. I was leading the league in scoring, so I got a lot of credit for that. I became like a traveling show wherever I went. The stadiums were packed to come watch the brilliant Negro God and the Black Flash and the Black Magic. And finally, they called me the Black Pearl, and that kind of stuck. I got me one now, So I enjoyed it. My last game of the year, we had some officials from Geelong come up to watch it. I knew they were from somewhere else because they had the man bags wrapped around their hand. And at the end of the game, Rex Stewart, God bless him, and Robbie Gannon, both of those gentlemen, God bless him too. They both passed away. They were the stalwarts of the original Geelong Basketball Club. They told Dave Atkins that they would come take me with them. And Dave said to me, "Well, pack your bags. You're going with these guys now." I'm like, "I'm not going nowhere with them." So they asked me, would I come visit as I was being invited to the NBL Grand Final to receive an award for being the league leading scorer. I went down the highway with them. They came to the game at Albert Park as we watched the Grand Final, and I stayed with Rex Stewart. They told me that they have an interest in me coming back and asked me about my family I left behind because Brisbane told me already that they couldn't afford to bring my family back, so it didn't look like I was going to be coming back at all. And then Geelong said, "Well, we're not in the league, but we would love for you to be a draw card for us and to help us get into the league. So if you're interested, we'll bring your family out." I was like, wow, that got me perked up. And they said, "We'll also, if you have 2 mates that can play decent basketball to help us get to where we want to go, you can bring them too." And I was like, "Oh, now we're talking." So I came back to Geelong in 1980 of January with my family, 2 sons at the time, Elliot and CJ. And I brought 2 of my one from my hometown, but living in Wichita, Johnny Rebels, who still lives here to this day, and Steve Kalasinski, one of my college teammates, a Polish gentleman. And we came into Geelong straight away, started winning off the bat, went to the Warrnambool tournament in Wangaratta, and the Corio tournament. We won all 3 of them, knocking off the Melbourne Tigers, which are supposed to be the team. And then we went ahead and in 1980 and played St. Kilda for the championship. And we lost in the actual grand final that year. But the next year we elevated into the Southeastern Basketball League. We won that. And then from there we got launched into the NBL, in which I was able to, I was asked to take over the coaching after we lost our first game, and the administration was kind of like, we just told the coach that he had to step off, and you're coming in. It was Tim Kaiser, because he's the only one that don't think we can win a championship. Everyone said we could except him. I was like, really? So they said, well, we'd like you to take over. And we were only training twice a week, Tuesday and Thursdays for 3 hours. So I immediately changed that for a start, because I didn't particularly like being in the gym for 3 hours straight, in a cold gym at that, and not really active the whole time. So I made it 1 hour a day for 5 days, and the boys adjusted to it. 2 days was on the running track to get us in shape, and we went to straight to the grand final against West Adelaide. So that was kind of a way it all started for me in Geelong, and then I decided to become a citizen, look into it so I can stay here and represent Australia. That was my goal, and eventually all that came to fruition. But yeah, it was a real pioneering era in terms of, I was the director of coaching, so I used to go to all the schools in Geelong, traveling on my bicycle and running little clinics. Every afternoon I ran a skills school from under 12s right through to under 20s. And on Saturdays I did the under 10s with the parents. So it was a really busy time. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it, not one bit, because it helped me get what I call my swag in my bag. I had my skill set happening. I had passing on to the kids. I had a work ethic. I had an aptitude for learning, because I wanted to be the best possible player / coach I could be. And I set goals to win championships, and we did all that, except for the NBL title. But we were there knocking on the door one year. And then at the end of it, it was kind of sad, because we had new ownership come in as we started to rise, and the new owners had a different vision in mind, which didn't involve me being a player coach, but as just a player, they wanted half my salary, which with a family of 3 now, couldn't afford to take it. So I was selling shoes at Vogue Shoes to kind of make up the difference. And then finally, Brisbane offered me a deal to pack up and leave. And I thought, if you're not going to pay me my full compliment, then I might as well go. And of course, that was a turning point in my career, in that I became a citizen. So I was able to represent Australia from Brisbane. And I won my first championship that next year with Brisbane, playing with Leroy Loggins and Larry Singstock and Ronnie Ratliff and Sibley and Dodge and some others. So it was a great time. I was disappointed that Geelong kind of fell off. They replaced me with 5 Americans, and I wasn't very happy about that. I think it was Casey Jones and Brian Gorgon and Alan Westover and Ken Richardson, and who was the other? It was one more, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, geez, yo really did a number there, and they never obviously reached those heights again. So, but I still got my fond memories of Geelong. I still love the place. Every time I get back there, it feels like home. I always drive around my old house that I had there and just have a look and see if it's still standing, and it is. But I love to see the program succeed, and I've obviously been back many times working with the juniors there and running camps and clinics and things like that.
Cal, can I ask, was it back to the Leisure Time Centre out at Corio where you were first playing for the Supercats?
Correct. Yeah, so the Leisure Time Centre probably fitted 300 people, I think. We had one makeshift stand on one side, and we had some fixed stands, and then we had the upper balcony where they used to shoot the videos. That was the first time we had videos. I think in Australian basketball, the Vivid Video company was doing it. And we used to pack the stadium out. You couldn't put another person in there with a shoehorn. And of course, when I was about to leave, that's when they transferred into the old warehouse that was converted. That became the stadium for years.
Cal, I want to talk a little bit about the junior programs that you mentioned before, because again, over your basketball career, you've touched so many lives and brought so much enjoyment to basketball for junior players. And I think that really did start in Geelong when you were the director of coaching and started building up those programs. And I just want to talk a little bit about, you know, you obviously you run your Bruton basketball camps still today and very involved in Indigenous pathways and Indigenous basketball programs. So just tell us a little bit more about how that came about from those very early days of being the director of coaching in Geelong and where it's grown to, and how you feel about seeing those kids that you coached way back then playing today.
Well, Beth, that's been a fantastic story there. When I think about it, I coached in the States, you know, it's little summer camps and things like that. And I was assistant coach at my high school. But coming to Australia, the knowledge I was seeking, I thought I was ahead of the game because I was a student of the game. So I was always getting books and videos and things like that to try to up my knowledge a little bit. And when I was asked to be the director of coaching, that was my role with Pauline Dawson. She was my coordinator. She just pointed in the direction I had to go. So I was doing 3 or 4 schools a day, recruiting kids to come to my skill school. And as I mentioned, I ran the program they started at 4 o'clock to 6. So every afternoon I had all these kids coming, only 12 in the program, but we ran it for 5 days. So we had the elite kids who would become representative players. I used to take them through the fundamentals of the game. You know, we did all the passing, the shooting, the ball handling. We learned how to play 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and I used to get really deeply involved with bringing the chairs out. And then on the Saturday night when we ran the under-10s, we get all the parents out there and get them to participate as well. So it became a family sort of entertainment package, you know. Parents just drop the kids off, of course, and then come back and pick them up. And I always try to let the kids leave with a sense of excitement that they're learning a new skill today. And, of course, we had a camera crew come in and video them working in the skill school, working out in the skill school. So they got pretty excited. But more importantly to me, those kids became fans. And a lot of those young people went on to represent Geelong in the further competitions when they got old enough after playing in the local. From doing that with Geelong gave me a real appetite to try to build up a base of kids that I felt can not only play in Geelong, but can actually go out and represent other places and other cities and states. So we had quite a number of Geelong players that went on to higher things, but a lot of the locals went on to really, truly like the YMCA and the Corral, the Corral team. And there was one with Pivot City. You know, we had so many different players play around, but we had a reputation in Geelong as skillful players. And everyone knew that when you come down the highway to Geelong, you're going to have a tough game because we wanted to put on a show for all those young kids that were looking up, that were coming to our skill school, but also coming to the games and cheering hard for us. So we didn't want to let them down. So that became a real excitement package for me. So when I left Geelong, I took that same energy to Brisbane. And I was director coaching in Brisbane. And of course, I couldn't ride a bicycle around there. It's a much bigger place, but I did the same thing, went all the schools. We had the first real big camps, had 400 kids in a 2-court stadium at Auchenflower, running a camp all day. From there, doing that for a couple years and concentrating on my game as well because I was representing Australia, I went over to Perth and kind of amplified that throughout the state. And that was fantastic. You know, we took the whole Western Australian population by storm. We became the run, start, and have some fun, you know, and I still revert all that back to Geelong of having those fundamentals camps being successful. And then in Perth, it became a phenomenon. You had to be a part of the Wildcat, you know, the junior Wildcats crew. And I had more help then because I had James Crawford and the Trevor Todd. I had all the players. And we used to go to the shopping centers and, you know, we had our own TV show. And before you know it, we all became rock stars. It was almost like the Chicago Bulls all over again, you know, all before the Chicago Bulls, I should say. You know, so no, that was an exciting time for me because I love the game. You know, that's why I've been able to, I guess, survive so long. I'm coming up on 67 years of age, and I still get a kick out of going to my primary school here in Queanbeyan South, working with, you know, 22 Aboriginal kids who, out of this group, supposedly 80 of them have been suspended from the school, but through my program, they're all trying to get in, but I can only handle a certain bunch. So it's been going for 2 years now. And a lot of kids are continuing playing right out of my program, going to their high schools and continue to play with clubs and what have you. So everyone reckon and when I walk into the stadium, I got all these kids coming up, giving me, dap me up, and like, what up, coach? How you doing? And I'm like, how do you know these kids? You know? Well, it's just my nature to be involved with young people. Kind of keeps me youthful, I think, and being involved with the game and what I love, I just try my best to pass on that positive energy to them.
Cal, that flamboyance that you demonstrated on the court, that you introduced to Geelong, that you took to Perth, that you've just spoken about, that you still love to exhibit with the young people, where was that honed, or did that come really naturally to you?
I think it comes from my mom. She was a sort of a enthusiastic, real heartwarming woman. She, anyone that met her would just loved her. All my friends from New York still to this day talk about my mom. You know, she passed in 1988, but she left an impression on folks. And I thought that, you know, the way she brought me up was always to be kind. You know, be kind to others, respect the elders. We got a little acronym out, and Beth would know that the Bruton acronym is like be kind to others, respect your elders, use your manners. It's the U, trust in God, own your mistakes, and never give up. And I've been, you know, I guess I've been knocked back so many times during my career on opportunities, but I always have the attitude, the game's not over until you win. So I just keep going, you know, roll up the sleeves. If you got to start all over again, you do that. But that's the enthusiasm I think has been home from my family. I got 2 younger sisters, both of them caring young women. I said young women, my one sister's 66 now, the same as me. But she's a special person. She's intellectually handicapped. She's albino, and we grew up in the civil rights movement. And we got, both of us had our trying times because, you know, I used to have to hold her hand and take her to school, and everyone said, man, you got to let go of that white girl's hand. I'm in a black neighborhood. I'm like, what white girl? That's my sister, you know? So I'm fighting all that. So my mom finally was able to get us out of that neighborhood. I had my little sister who was born a month after my dad died. So I became the man of the family, and always felt that I had to have more people to look after us, you know, as a group. So it paid to be kind, I felt. It might not come to you initially, but some way around, you do the right thing, it's going to come back to you. So my mom at one point told me that I need to get out of here and become a man, and you need to go away to college. And I'm like, no, I want to stay in New York. She said, you got to go. And as much as I cried my eyes out, I jumped on a bus and went out to Wichita State. And that's where I knew I had to grow up. And same thing, I wanted to use the basketball as a vehicle to make people appreciate what teamwork is, make people feel good about playing with me, because I can, like you said, I can be flamboyant with it, but I can also play the game in a way that was competitive, but also want to bring people back to come watch again. You know, that was my thing. You know, if I could pack out a stadium by throwing a pass between my legs or behind my head, I'll do it. Sometimes it might even go out of bounds, but at least I'll go, oh man, that's all right, I'll get the next one. But that's the way I was brought up, just to just enjoy it, you know. And if you enjoy what you do, you never call it work. So you know, I could have 100 kids at my camp, and I'm drilling them hard, but at the same time, I want to make sure they have fun, so they want to come back again.
Well, Cal, I want to take it back to Queens, New York, where you grew up and where you were from. And I saw recently that there was, a tribute to you at Montbelier Park, which is one of the parks that you used to play at. So talk us through a little bit about what that's all about and how it was growing up. You know, street ball is such a big thing, especially in New York, and growing up playing street ball in New York and now having that sort of recognition as one of the legends of the New York courts.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, you hear about the Rucker tournament in Manhattan, but where I played at was Montbelier Park, which we call Bello, and had a group of people there. One I need to mention, named Mr. Mack, who used to look after the park, and he gave me my first job. I would say probably my second job. I used to have a newspaper run, so I can keep some change to buy my sneakers, my Converse at $8.15. But Mr. Mac paid me more. He paid me $42 a week to pick out all the grass in between the bricks and things like that, and paint the lines on the basketball court. And in that park, every summer we have what we call the courtsmen, and they have sort of under 12s right through to the unlimited, which was the men. And you spend your whole day just watching basketball of all the players coming through. As you played your game, you wouldn't leave. You stay there, and I used to buy me a hot dog or whatever and sit around and watch the older players play. That's where you got your recognition from. If you played well, you'll be able to get someone to recognize you, and you might even make the all-star team where you can go travel to the other cities. And I was able to play for a team called the Salukis, which took the best people out of Bellow Park and put us on a team. And then we went to Manhattan and Bronx, and Staten Island, and we played these games. And I played with a guy by the name of Rudy Jackson, great player. He was the most highly sought after player in the country. And because all the scouts would come to those parks and look at the players, they chose Rudy to go to, he had 250 scholarship offers. And he wanted to go, or he accepted to go to Wichita State. But when they asked him, can we do anything for you? He said, I'd like to bring my man Cal, because he's the one that make me look good. So I stayed on the courtsman all that summer working on my game. I used to get up there early in the morning. In the wintertime, I used to shovel the courts, from snow. And then the guys would come down and play, and I wouldn't even get a run. I had to sit and watch them until they finished, and then I could go shoot around. But it was a launching pad for me. And now they dedicated a day to the park. They got banners of me hanging on the fences and stuff. They sent me a jersey here. Excuse me, I'll show you. They hung this up at the park. And on the fence. And now they got a big life-size banner.
Fantastic.
So they send these things to me, and it's like, wow. There's one gentleman who was like a little brother to me, Walter Murray. Walter Murray came to Geelong, actually. I brought him to Geelong, but Walter Mosley, and he's still at that park, and he still recognizes everything I kind of done there. And each year he brings a group of people together, and they FaceTime me and say, hey, look what we got for you this year, man. When you coming? So last time I was there, I took my daughter, and she couldn't believe it. And the funniest thing, it was 4,000 people at the park. I had my high school coach there, my junior high school coach come to watch. And it's crazy. There's people everywhere. And they gave me the microphone and, Cal, tell us what you're doing in Australia. We know you're a legend. And of course, my daughter's looking like she couldn't see any of this coming on. And I called her out, she was embarrassed. And she said, Dad. I said, wow, what do you mean? She goes, well, this is the most black people I've been around all my life. I said, yeah, I think you're right. But it was a great, great thing. And she really appreciated where my standing was in New York. But I enjoyed growing up in that environment. I played all sports, football at that park. I was a quarterback for the Queens Falcons. I played handball and baseball. I lived at that park, and that's where my mom actually focused in. That was my second home. She didn't want me to get in any trouble. There was a lot of drugs in the neighborhood at the time, and it was bad for a lot of young people coming through. My high school had 4,000 students. When you think about that, you think, wow, like how do you? Well, we had to come in shifts. Your first year, you come in at 9 o'clock, and get out at 3. Your second year, you come in at 12 and get out at 5:30. Your third year, you come in at 10 and get out at 4. And your senior year, you come in at 7 in the morning and you get out at 12. Just so they can keep everybody going. And then you had to go through a metal detector back then, because everyone's carrying weapons and stuff like that. So it was a tough time growing up if you weren't playing sport. That's why I'm always grateful for the game of basketball in particular, because it kept me on the straight and narrow, trying to improve all the time and use that vehicle that brought me all the way to Australia.
Well, Cal, before we wrap up and let you go, we just want to talk about, we caught up with Ray Borner last week and we spoke about the Olympics and how amazing it was to finally see the Australian men win a bronze medal. And I know it holds a special place in your heart, obviously, because your son CJ is an Olympian, but also to see Paddy Mills really step up into his leadership, being the flag bearer for Australia. So just wanted to get your thoughts and feelings on seeing that men's team win that bronze medal and seeing Paddy just relish in his role this year.
That was fabulous. That was just the most exciting thing I've seen pretty much this year. Paddy showed his genuine leadership right from the start. I had a bit to do with him here in Canberra when he was a youngster, like 12, 13 years of age. Used to invite him into our Canberra Cannons trainings. He wanted to play me one-on-one in front of the crew while everyone's stretching. And he used to actually try to beat me, and I just wasn't going to let that happen, but I used to coach him, just help out with the training sessions of the Shadows Basketball Club with his dad ran. While I was working in the car industry, I used to basically leave the industry, tuck my pants in my socks, just change my shoes, the sneakers, and step out on the court with him and work him out and work the team out. And then finally he beat me in one-on-one, so that was the end of that. Wasn't going to play him no more. But it was great to see my son CJ, when he came into the Australian squad, be there to mentor him through. At one point I thought, I remember hearing that the Australian team senior players weren't all that excited because Paddy could shoot the ball and he liked to take the shots. And as a youngster, as you would appreciate, when you come in, you don't want this young guy coming in stealing your thunder, but CJ was like, yo, hold up, you got, he's good. Let him find his feet. He'll take the right shots and kind of guide him through that little minefield there. And to see the Australian team get so close. I was in Melbourne when they played the USA and knocked them off there. To watch it on TV, them missing out on that medal in 216, I just thought, wow, that's getting, that just bites, 218. So now all of a sudden to get to that third game, you're thinking, oh, shucks, here you go again. And to see Paddy put on that performance as well as the other guys. I mean, Joe Ingles was magnificent. Dante Exum, who's Geelongite, having father played for Geelong and Cecil, and all those guys. Dellavedova didn't have a good series, but at the same time, you knew that his heart was all embedded in that program. And Jock Landale, who just come back here and hit the scene, and now he's in the NBA. Just
also a former Geelong player, just putting that out.
Okay, well, there you go. I didn't know that. But I just see that Australian basketball has now gone from strength to strength. Now that the bronze medal is in hand, as Paddy says, a rose gold. Now they got to go for the gold. And it was such an exciting event for the whole country. Like, I know I'd like to know how many eyes is watching that game, but, for mine, I just thought that sitting there watching it, at the end, I didn't quite go to the crying episode like Andrew did, but I felt a sense of warmth in my heart that, man, we were knocking at that door for so many years. I know when I represented Australia in 1986, we didn't even make the final playoff. Like, we got booted, and back then, you only had a continental breakfast. That's all you could do. Now we got 10 players in the NBA, there was none of us in the NBA back then, but we had the battle for every single ounce. And I didn't make the Olympic team in '88, but they went on to have their best finish ever. And having become the first Black American to represent Australia, I felt very proud that now Paddy, who's a Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander player, led the way I would like to think I could have led the way if I had sort of had another opportunity. But he and the rest of the crew deserve all the credit, and Brian Gorgon for leading the way, because he's no doubt been the GOAT of the coaches in Australia. And for him to pull that team together and get them to actually play their best when their best was required was just a magnificent achievement. So, yeah, very proud to be Australian. I am Australian. I had to renounce my U.S. citizenship back in 1982. So I'm all Australian. I just kind of looking forward to the next episode where hopefully, my son CJ's been an Australian assistant coach, and he's also represented Australia. My son Dante looks like he has some potential to to step up in that. He's already represented Australia in the under 15 FIBA Skills Challenge. So we feel that, we embedded in the game here. And if we can continue to offer our heart and soul and expertise to the next generation coming through, we'll try to find the next Patty Mills and keep it going.
Well, the Bruton dynasty certainly lives on through Australian basketball. Cal Bruton, thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure, too. Thank you so much, Beth, for having me. And Wes, appreciate it.
Well, Beth, how good was that, having a chance to catch up with one of the legends of the game?
Always great to chat with Cal, and he's so generous with his time and always has such great yarns to spin. It's amazing to speak to him again.
Well, let's hope that as we close the show, we head into a week of recovery for our nation and that we move towards more positive times with some return to basketball.
Fingers crossed.
Let's hope so. Hope you can join us again when we return with the Fast Break Basketball Show again next week.